I wish he would just vanish. She had no idea her husband was standing behind her, recording every word. And when he did vanish, he took everything with him. What she found instead would ruin her life forever. Griffin Ward wasn't supposed to be home that day. The furniture delivery was canceled last minute when the client's check bounced, so he took the unexpected free afternoon to head home, thinking maybe he'd grab a sandwich, maybe surprise Jenna with flowers if he passed the florist on the way. Instead, he pulled into the driveway of their modest Boise home and noticed something off before he even stepped inside. The house was quiet, no jazz playing from the kitchen, no scent of dinner simmering. He opened the front door gently, the scent of pine wood and varnish still clinging to his hands from the workshop. He didn't call out. Then he heard her voice. "Sarah, I'm telling you, I can't stand him anymore." Griffin froze, one boot still half off. His body stiffened, but his instincts sharpened. He knew that tone. Jenna didn't talk like that around him. Not in months. He pulled out his phone and hit record. "Even the way he breathes irritates me," she went on, her voice sharp and unfiltered. 15 years I've wasted with that man. No kids, no money, no excitement. Just this house and that dumb old truck he still insists on driving." Griffin stood still in the entryway, listening to the woman he'd built a life with describe him like deadweight. No kids, she said, like it was his fault. Like she hadn't cried in his arms every time a pregnancy test came back negative. Like he hadn't researched specialists, suggested adoption, offered everything he could think of to help her feel whole. And he'd never once thrown it in her face. "He's like a loyal puppy," Jenna scoffed. "Always putting me first. Always saying yes. It's pathetic." Then came the name. Roland. "He treats me like the queen I am," she told her friend. "I wish Griffin would just vanish. No divorce, no fighting over stuff. Just disappear. So I can be with Roland forever." Griffin didn't move. He didn't breathe. He stood there recording every word, every cruel syllable. The fantasy she described was vivid. Freedom, happiness, and a future with another man. A future that didn't include him at all. She sighed contentedly as she said it. Not angry, not emotional, just satisfied. Griffin turned, stepped quietly back outside, and stood on the porch until the recording stopped. Then he walked back in, jingled his keys loud enough for her to hear, stomped his boots on the mat, and called out the same line he had for 15 years. "Honey, I'm home." Jenna greeted him with a smile. In that moment, Griffin knew two things. First, the woman he loved didn't exist anymore. Maybe she never had. And second, she had just given him the blueprint for everything she truly wanted. She wanted him gone. Fine, he'd disappear. But not without a plan. For the next 3 weeks, Griffin became the husband Jenna always claimed to want. He made her coffee in the mornings, just the way she liked it, left little notes in her yoga bag, smiled at her stories, kissed her goodbye before she left the house. If she noticed the difference, she didn't mention it. She was too busy texting Roland during her workshops, staying out later, laughing more easily. Griffin matched her energy, not out of love anymore, but precision. Behind every gesture, he was building his exit. His first call went to his brother Brent, a realtor in Colorado. Brent didn't ask many questions when Griffin told him he needed the house sold quietly. Fast, cash only, no public listings. "You sure?" Brent asked. "Just get it done," Griffin said. "No names on the paperwork until the last day." His second call was to Eli Jacobs, an old high school friend turned top-tier divorce attorney in Montana. Eli's reputation for tearing apart dishonest spouses was no exaggeration. "I've got audio," Griffin said. "Planning an affair, wishing I'd disappear." "That'll hold," Eli replied. "You want to hit her hard or just clean and quick?" "Both." Eli got to work that day. Meanwhile, Griffin started documenting everything in the house. Every table, cabinet, and fixture he'd built with his own hands. He took photos, matched serial numbers, pulled receipts. Every piece was his original work, legally his property. While Jenna hummed in the kitchen or laughed with Roland on her Bluetooth headset, Griffin scanned jewelry boxes and photographed her new perfume bottles. Gifts from her yoga instructor, she'd say. One bracelet had a logo from a luxury store downtown. Griffin checked the price online. It cost more than he made in 2 months. "Looks nice," he'd say, snapping a picture of it later for Eli's growing evidence folder. At night, when she curled up beside him and mumbled, "You've been so sweet lately," Griffin would nod. "Just grateful," he'd say, and mean it in a way she didn't understand. Each day brought her closer to the future she wanted, and him closer to freedom. The house sale moved faster than expected. Brent found a tech entrepreneur from Seattle who wanted to move in ready home in Boise. No inspections, no contingencies. Just clean money. Closing day was scheduled for a Thursday. Jenna would be at her regular yoga class, the one that doubled as her texting hour with Roland. Griffin had everything packed: personal items, tools, important documents, and a few sentimental keepsakes. He didn't empty the place. That would have raised questions. He only took what mattered, what he planned to take on a weekend trip. The night before the sale, Jenna was giddy. She'd made plans to attend a wellness retreat over the weekend. Griffin knew it was Roland she'd be seeing. She didn't even try to hide it anymore. "You're not mad I'll be gone for a few days?" she asked. "No," he said. "Enjoy yourself." Thursday morning, Griffin woke up early. Jenna was upstairs getting ready, humming the same tune she'd been singing for weeks. He made her coffee. She barely looked up from her phone as she grabbed it. "Back late tonight," she said. "Advanced class." "Drive safe," Griffin replied, steady as stone. At 10:47 a.m., he signed the final closing documents. By noon, the house was no longer his. The money hit the new account Eli had set up. Griffin loaded 12 boxes and a set of well-used tools into the bed of his truck. No neighbors saw him leave. No one suspected a thing. On the kitchen counter, where Jenna always dropped her keys, he left a single manila envelope. Inside were the signed divorce papers, the audio recording, and a note. "You said you wanted me gone. Wish granted. Griffin." At 2:15 p.m., Griffin Ward drove out of Boise. No dramatic goodbye, no second chances. Just one man, finally done pretending. Jenna Ward pulled into the driveway just after 7:30 p.m. that Thursday, exhausted from pretending she'd spent the day doing yoga. She was too distracted by a string of texts from Roland to notice anything strange. His last message still lingered on the screen. "Can't wait for tomorrow. He'll never see it coming." She walked inside, kicked off her shoes, and headed to the kitchen. That's when she saw the envelope. Her name was written on the front in Griffin's familiar handwriting. Clear, steady. The kind of penmanship he'd used to leave her love notes in the early years. She almost smiled. Then she opened it. The divorce papers came first. Official, notarized, every signature in place. Her name, Griffin's, the date, the legal seal. Her hands started to shake. Then she pulled out the flash drive. She grabbed her laptop and plugged it in, her heart racing. The file opened. Her voice filled the room. "I can't stand him anymore. I wish he'd just vanish." She sat frozen, listening to herself mock the man who'd stood by her for 15 years. Line by line, it played back her betrayal. The recording didn't miss a beat. Every cruel word, every selfish wish, every time she mentioned Roland. By the time it ended, she couldn't breathe. A knock at the front door broke the silence. She jumped, still hoping, desperately, that maybe Griffin had come back. Maybe he'd changed his mind. She opened the door. Two strangers stood there, a man and a woman, dressed for business. They held clipboards and paperwork. "Mrs. Ward," the man said politely, "I'm Michael Smith. This is my wife, Sarah. We're the new owners of this property." Jenna blinked. "What are you talking about? This is my house." Sarah handed her a folder. "Your husband finalized the sale this morning. All documents are in order. You have 24 hours to vacate per the agreement." Jenna's mouth opened, but no words came. She flipped through the folder. Every page was real. Every signature was Griffin's. The deed, the sale, the closing paperwork, all finalized. "But he didn't tell me," she stammered. "Your husband was the sole legal owner," Michael explained. "The property was his before your marriage. It's all within Idaho law. We're sorry for the short notice." They turned and walked away, leaving her standing in a house that no longer belonged to her. Panic set in fast. She grabbed her phone and called her sister. "Becca, I need a place to stay. Griffin's gone. He sold the house." "I'm sorry, Jenna," Rebecca said, clearly uncomfortable. "David's mom is visiting. We don't have space." Click. Jenna tried Sarah from yoga. Remember what I said about Griffin? Well, I don't want to get involved, Jenna, Sarah interrupted. I hope things work out, but I'm staying out of this. Another door slammed shut. Desperate, she called Roland. He answered on the second ring. Roland, I need help. Griffin found out. He left. I have nowhere to go. A pause, then. Jenna, I can't get involved. What are you talking about? She said, her voice rising. You said we'd be together. I said what I needed to. Look, my wife and kids are coming back from Connecticut tomorrow. This, whatever we had, is over. You lied to me. I told you what you wanted to hear. He hung up. Jenna stood alone in the middle of the kitchen. No husband, no home, no future. Just a phone in her hand and a life unraveling faster than she could process. By midnight, she was still awake, curled on the floor in a house that wasn't hers. The fridge was nearly empty. Her bag still smelled like the fake yoga session she hadn't attended. She looked around and realized Griffin hadn't just left. He had taken the ground out from under her. And the worst part? He didn't scream, he didn't fight, he didn't even say goodbye. He vanished, exactly as she wished. By the next afternoon, Jenna was out. Movers hired by the new owners arrived at exactly 2 p.m., just like they said. She hadn't packed much. Most of what she cared about wasn't hers anymore. The furniture, Griffin had built it. The kitchen appliances, part of the house sale. Even the framed photos on the mantel. He'd taken only one, leaving the rest behind like discarded memories. She booked a room at an extended stay motel on the edge of town. It smelled of bleach and stale air, but it was all she could afford. With no job lined up and no savings of her own, Jenna turned to the only thing she had left: social media. She tried to revive her yoga blog, posted pictures of borrowed yoga mats, recycled captions about healing, strength, and moving forward. But her followers weren't interested. The likes slowed, comments stopped. She noticed that even Sarah had unfollowed her. She called Roland again, blocked, tried texting from a different number, nothing. It became clear he'd never intended to leave his wife. She was just a distraction, a fantasy he could walk away from. She wasn't even worth a goodbye. Griffin didn't contact her either. No texts, no emails, not even a letter. But she knew he was watching, from a distance at least. One of her yoga friends mentioned that a lawyer named Eli Jacobs had called to request a written statement about Jenna's relationship with Roland, the same Eli she'd heard Griffin mention once, years ago. A few days later, she received a formal notice from Griffin's attorney. It confirmed that the divorce had been finalized. There would be no alimony, no property settlement. The recording, paired with documented infidelity and abandoned responsibilities, had left her with no legal ground to stand on. She tried to contest the house sale. Her lawyer claimed emotional distress, lack of notification, spousal abandonment. But the court documents were airtight. Griffin had prepared for everything. He hadn't left loose ends, he just left. Weeks passed. Jenna found part-time work substitute teaching at a local middle school. It barely covered rent. She applied for more hours, tried picking up yoga classes again, but her reputation followed her. Some people remembered her blog, others whispered about what really happened. One night, while scrolling online, she stumbled across a photo someone had posted from Missoula, Montana. In the background, almost out of frame, was a sign: Ward and Company Custom Furniture. There was a man loading a hand-carved bench into a pickup truck. Even blurry, she knew it was Griffin. She stared at the photo for a long time. He looked fine. Actually, he looked better than he had in years. Focused, strong, present. He had done it. He'd vanished, just like she asked. But instead of falling apart, he'd built something new. She tried calling the number listed for the business. It went straight to voicemail. She didn't leave a message. Another week passed. She got a letter from her bank. One of the accounts she used jointly with Griffin had been closed. She hadn't touched it in months, but seeing it officially cut off made something settle in her chest. This was permanent. There would be no reconciliation, no dramatic return. She remembered the last real conversation they had, before the day he left. He'd made her coffee and said he was grateful. At the time, she thought he was just trying harder. Now she saw it for what it was: closure. A goodbye hidden in plain sight. She'd mocked his devotion, took for granted the way he showed up for her, even when there was nothing in it for him. She thought loyalty was weakness. Now she knew it was his greatest strength. But it was gone. And no matter how many times she replayed that recording in her head, she couldn't undo what she said. I wish he would just vanish, he had, and with him, every safety net she ever had. 2 years later, Jenna sat alone in a cramped studio apartment on the outskirts of town. The ceiling leaked when it rained. The heater worked half the time. Her yoga blog hadn't been updated in months. The wellness brand she once dreamed of launching had vanished along with her audience. She'd applied for a dozen full-time jobs, most of which didn't call her back. The part-time teaching gigs barely covered rent. Credit cards were maxed. She'd sold most of her jewelry, the same pieces Roland had once given her. As for Roland, he'd blocked her across every platform. The last time she saw him was nearly a year ago, walking into a restaurant with his wife and children. He didn't even glance her way. Her phone buzzed. A notification from social media. Someone had tagged Ward & Company furniture in a post. She tapped the link and saw a smiling couple standing in a brand new home. Behind them, a handcrafted dining table with clean lines and signature detailing. Griffin's work. The caption read, "Huge thanks to Ward & Company in Missoula for our dream table. Worth every penny. Griffin, you're a true artist." Jenna clicked through the photos. Griffin was in one of them, standing beside the piece. He looked confident, at ease. She zoomed in and noticed someone standing next to him, a woman holding his hand. Her name, Jenna would later learn, was Claire, a librarian and widow from Missoula. She and Griffin had met at a local bookstore where he was displaying smaller wood pieces. Claire had recognized his work from a local design magazine. They didn't fall into each other quickly. It took time, trust, honesty, but Claire listened when Griffin talked. She never made him feel like he had to apologize for his past. She valued small things, morning coffee, shared silence, long walks after dinner. She asked about his craft, not about his income. She didn't post quotes about gratitude. She lived them. One evening, while watching the sun set behind the Montana hills, Claire asked him, "Do you ever miss her?" Griffin didn't lie. "I miss who I thought she was," he said. "But that person never really existed." Claire nodded. She didn't press further. She didn't need to. By then, his business had taken off. What started in a rented garage had grown into a small workshop with 2 apprentices. Every piece he made was custom. No mass production, no shortcuts. Clients paid top dollar and waited months for delivery. Griffin never compromised. His old life in Boise felt distant. Not forgotten, just irrelevant. He kept the recording, but he never played it again. He didn't need to. The damage it documented had already been done. It had served its purpose. It was part of the foundation that built his new life. Jenna, meanwhile, never fully recovered. She tried dating again, but trust didn't come easily, neither from her nor toward her. Every time she started to open up, she'd feel the weight of her past come rushing in. People could sense it. They always pulled away. She finally understood that Griffin hadn't just left her. He had left behind the version of himself that tolerated being undervalued. The real revenge hadn't been in selling the house or vanishing without warning. It wasn't even in the silence that followed. It was in the fact that Griffin had gone on to live the life she never imagined he could without her. A better one. And he did it without bitterness, without cruelty, without stooping to her level. He simply walked away and never looked back.